Is morality lessened under the new covenant? The way you hear some Christians talk, it sounds like it did. We don't have to tithe anymore. We don't have to give as much as they did under the old covenant. We don't have to live a holier life because we're under grace and not under law. But this is not what our Lord Jesus taught. In introducing the Sermon on the Mount here in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus begins with, "Do not think that I've come to abolish the law of the prophets. I've not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen, by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished." So do we still have heaven and earth? Look around. It's still here. So Jesus' teachings are still here. You understand this? Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commandments and teaches others accordingly would be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. This is how Jesus introduces his sermon, because many of the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, they thought that Jesus was encouraging people to disobey what Moses commanded. But Jesus is going to say, no, do what Moses commanded and do more than that. Not less, but more. For example, he says, you heard it said, don't commit adultery. That's one of the 10 commandments. But I say, don't even look at a woman with lust. Can you see how he's raising the bar of morality, not lowering it? Jesus said, you could not murder another person. But I say to you, don't even be angry with your brother or sister without a cause. So he's saying, I'm telling you, change your inside, not just the outside. So Jesus doesn't lower the standard of Christian living. He raises the standard of Christian living. Under the law, if someone took your eye, you can only get their eye. You can't get both eyes. If they only took one eye, you can only get one eye. Eye for an eye. But Jesus says, I tell you, if someone slaps you on the cheek, offer the other. In other words, Jesus is not saying, be even and slap them back one time. No, he says, don't even slap them at all. I say to you, give in to them and offer the other cheek. Show love. Under the old covenant, you've got to love your neighbor. But I say, love your enemies as well. Do you see what Jesus is doing? He's lifting the standard of morality under the new covenant, not less. But the way I hear some Christians interpret the Bible, I see that they believe in lowering the standards rather than lifting them up. One example is tithing. You see, Jesus told the Pharisees in Matthew 23:23, he says, you tithe off of everything, but you neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. These you should be practicing without neglecting the former. So Jesus says, I'm not giving you a free pass to neglect tithing if you'll do these other things. No, I'm saying do these other things, but don't neglect the other one. Yet Christians will say, well, that was to Pharisees. I know he told them to tithe, but not to us. But Jesus said, if your righteousness does not surpass that of the Pharisees, you will not even enter God's kingdom. Wait a minute. That means we're supposed to give less? Is that what the argument is? The Pharisees tithe, but we can give less to God. Wow. So do you see how people are lowering the standards of Christianity? But Jesus lifted up. He said, Moses said you can get a divorce if you give a side a reason. But I say, unless you say it's marital unfaithfulness, you can't get a divorce. Do you see what he's saying? He's lifting. I'm trying to show you in the Sermon on the Mount and under the new and better covenant, we're to live better lives, more giving, more loving, more kind, more just, more merciful. We're to be more of that which is good, not less than that which is good. So friend, read the Sermon on the Mount. Make that your ambition for this week. And you're going to start to realize God has called the Christian to a higher morality, not a lesser one.